Welcome to Of Sound Mind and Spirit. I'm Shelly.
And I'm Lisa. We're sisters walking together on a journey of faith. We're not perfect.
We definitely don't have all the answers. We're inviting you to walk with us as we explore ways we can better know and grow in our faith together. Welcome back to another episode from Of Sound Mind and Spirit. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Shelly.
Hey, Lisa, you know what? Our listeners have heard us talk about this organization called SQPN for a long time now. So I invited our friend Domenic Bettinelli. He's the CEO of the StarQuest Production Network. So he's here to be our guest today. He's going to talk about it and where it's growing, and we're so excited. Welcome, Dom.
Thank you. So excited to be here with you. Thank you.
And Dom also has the distinction of being our first guy on the podcast ever.
It is quite an honor. I have gone where no man has gone before. So,
and there's the Star Trek reference.
Star Trek reference.
That's right. Is it every show that has to have a Star Trek reference? We used to say.
Yes, I think it is. As I edit each of our shows on the network, it comes up at least once. It is Star Trek is everywhere.
That's true. It's a tradition now. So
yes.
Dom, how long have you been with StarQuest Production Network?
So my first experience of StarQuest was with Father Roderick back almost 20 years ago now, which is kind of astounding when I think about it. Listening to his podcasts, and I was so excited by it. And when I heard that they were doing these Catholic New Media celebrations back in 2010, I was working for the Archdiocese of Boston. So I convinced my boss to invite SQPN to come and do the celebration at our pastoral center in Boston. And so that was my first connection. And then I started doing, I think it was The Secrets of Doctor Who originally with Father Roderick and Jimmy and Father Corey. And that was on a volunteer basis. And then in 2015, I think it is, so 10 years now. Wow, it's been 10 years. I started as first executive director, and then I came on full time a few years later as CEO of the network. So it's been a long journey, but a great one. I'm excited
that's so fun.
to be doing this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that CNMC in Boston, you said, what was it, 2010? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 2010 was the first one. We did two.
Yeah.
Another one in 2013.
Shelley and I
Do
were
you realize
both
what that
those.
means?
What?
Do you realize what that means? That means we
What?
met you 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was going to say.
Because our first one was in San Antonio in 2009, and I was wondering if you were there. But
I wanted to go there. My mother-in-law went to that one, Pat, who is on the Secrets of Tech now. But she got to go to that one, and I was very jealous. So I said, okay, well, if you're going to be able to do that, I'm going to bring it here myself.
You're like, I see you, I'll raise you one.
Exactly. And I loved that community, that gathering, all the people who are involved. There's so much cool stuff that came out of that CNMC in Boston alone. Every CNMC was fun, but there's so many cool things that came out of that. But all the people, everybody I met was so cool. It was so nice to meet all of these people that some I'd only heard on podcasts before, or some I'd never met before. And so it was really a great beginning of this, and kind of motivated me to I want more of this. I want to be more involved with this awesome community.
I think that's what was so exciting back then. Podcasting was still pretty new, and it was this group of great Catholics who, let's learn it, let's try it out, and with all in the same goal of bringing people towards Jesus, but in so many different ways.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't just let's get on and preach the gospel,
It was a whole new frontier. Star Trek reference. But it was this whole open vista of possibilities. You could do anything. And Father Roderick really pioneered this idea of we can talk about pop culture stuff from a Catholic perspective. We didn't just have to be, stuff that's just about the faith is great. And we have some shows that are primarily faith related, but we can bring our faith to all areas of our lives. And that's kind of where SQPN got its mission of exploring the intersection of faith and pop culture. Because, lots of people love Star Wars, Star Trek, Stargate, Doctor Who, Tolkien's Middle Earth. I mean, that's a even more closely Catholic related topic. But there are these levels to them where we could take it, because wherever there is truth, goodness, and beauty, we can find God. And we can find truth, goodness, and beauty in all of these things. Not everything in these things are all truth, goodness, and beauty, but it's there, because wherever humans are, we bring Christ with us, in whether we know it or not. And so this was a way to kind of bring the faith into the public square, to show people, hey, faith isn't just something in a little box over here on Sunday. It's part of our whole lives. And so that was really I think the big thing that sets us apart from, what we're doing at SQPN from from so many other, not all, I think others have gotten the idea too, which is great. But from so many other Catholic podcasts, networks, and individuals.
So for our listeners who don't know, can you give an example of some of the podcasts?
Oh, yeah. So we have 13 podcasts, and they range from the Very Catholic, which is like Pray Station Portable, which is a daily Liturgy of the Hours or Divine Office, it's called both things, podcast. It's got 5 different opportunities for prayer every day. This is the prayer of the church, and that's been going on continuously every day for 20 years. Jeff Vista has done an amazing job. He's an incredibly dedicated podcaster, and he's handing over the reins after 20 years. He's retiring and handing over the reins to a new podcaster to take over, which is great. So it goes from that. We have Catholics of Oz, which is our friends down in Melbourne, Australia, who do a great job. We have a newer show, which is The Secrets of Vatican II, which is a daily podcast by Father Matthew Schneider, who's going through the documents of Vatican II every day. So we have very Catholic ones. We have Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World, where we look at mysteries from the faith and reason perspectives, natural and supernatural mysteries. We've just did one on the Amityville Horror. We do ones on we also have Jack the Ripper, which is kind of like for April, we're doing a kind of a scary month, but we're also doing like upcoming the mystery of the year. Like, where do we get the idea of a year? 365 days. It hasn't always been 365 days the year. It's been lots of cultures have different things, and or we go into mysteries of like scripture, or mysteries like supernatural, like hauntings, Bigfoot, all that UFO stuff, all that crazy fun.
It's mysterious. I find it fun. Y'all are talking about it.
Exactly. The mysteries all over the place. So we do that, but then we do a lot of fandom sort of shows or genre shows. So we have, like I mentioned before, Secrets of Stargate, Secrets of Star Trek, Secrets of Star Wars. We do all the stars. We have Secrets of Middle Earth, Secrets of Doctor Who. I'm missing one. I got to look at my list because it was 13. Let's Science, which is a fun podcast that is kind of an offshoot of Catholics of Oz, because Caroline is a scientist. Caroline, who's on that show, is a scientist. And so they started doing these science segments. So I said, let's pull that part out and, keep it in your show, but we're going to excerpt that and make a separate show with just that segment to do, because science, Catholics and science. So lots of stuff like that. And then we have a general show called Secrets of Movies and TV Shows, where we kind of cover everything that isn't in the very specific shows.
And
nutshell.
One that I was just listening to yesterday, Secrets of Sacred Art.
Oh,
I was listening to a new episode about Montserrat and the Black Madonnas. Yeah.
Oh, they do such a good job. And that's one of our newer shows that are mainly video. We have a handful of shows that we do both audio and video, but that's one that's really best as video, because you have to see the art.
Right. I had to
really
switch.
Get it.
I was listening, and then they said something about YouTube, and I'm like, I had to switch over to YouTube so I could see the maps and the pictures, and because I've been there, and so I was really attracted to what are they going to say about it. So that was really cool.
It's one of our up and coming shows. I'm really happy they're doing it, because it's a whole nother area to explore for us. The art, and they're such wonderful artists, Alex and Catherine, and they do such a good job of of explaining the art, but the faith that's in the art. That's what's really important. It's not just about the art itself, but the faith that inspires the art and what the art can tell us about God. Again, where we find truth, goodness, and beauty in the art. So I love it, and they cover stuff that but they get the little stories about things that you hadn't heard about, and I really appreciate that show. It's a really great show.
But I've also been listening to the Vatican in a year, or Vatican II in a year. But I'm confessing I'm behind. I am so far behind. So when I listen to multiple episodes at one time, usually when I'm cleaning or, when your brain isn't engaged in something else, it's really good because you hear Vatican II I'm glad y'all are doing this, because Vatican II is something there's a lot of talk about these days, pros, cons, and I'll admit, I'd never thought to sit down and read the documents, or really investigate it for myself. And so to listen to Father Matthew talk about it, and he reads it and then he offers commentary, short little snippets each day. And I'm enjoying it. I'm learning a lot from it.
Yeah. I don't think you need to listen every single day. I mean, I think it's sort of that's the gimmick is it's 365 segments. I don't know that there are people who do I'm sure there are some who do listen every day, but the great part of it is once it's recorded, it's there forever, as long as we're around paying our server bills, but it's there for anyone to pick up at any time, and and that's why I keep emphasizing when I talk about it in our various media, whether our newsletters, whatever, to encourage people. You don't just because the year has started doesn't mean you've missed out. Just start at the beginning or start in the middle. Listen to a whole bunch at a time.
I remember that's how I started too, because Lisa had introduced me. She'd been talking about Father Roderick and SQPN, but then she told me, they have this show called Secrets of Battlestar Galactica. And we were watching that actively at the time. And so I turned it on. And what I really appreciated is that there was something that was clean. There wasn't any foul language. There wasn't anything that kind of went into an area that I didn't want in my life or in my house. And I was hooked. And the podcast hosts, whose
Jeff and Zena.
Thank you. I had their last name, but it was sorry, Zena. They were so knowledgeable, and it was like being on the university campus again, talking about all of this culture and literature and how it applied and how it turned into it. I was hooked, just completely hooked. So much so that when I met them at the SQPN CNMC in 2009, I was like, "Oh, I'm your biggest fan."
I know. I was kind of starstruck when I first met Jeff and Zena because they were so cool. I really enjoyed that podcast, and now it's fun because they live locally here to us, and so we're friends with them. We hang out there. Our kids see each other, so it's kind of fun. I kind of sometimes nudge Zena, hey, remember when you were that star, that celebrity that I was, I don't know if I've done that recently, but it's that's the thing is you get these folks on these shows, yourselves included, and it's genuine, it's authentic, and it comes from a place of, I think, of love. Why do everyone who does these shows, apart from me, I'm the only paid employee, everyone does it volunteer, and I super appreciate that. I super understand that the amount of time and effort that it goes into this, because you all are doing this out of love for Christ and love for others and love for these cool programs or movies or shows or stories that people have created for us. And so I think it comes across, and I agree. The great thing is that they're clean, that we endeavor to be positive. Not that we always have to, everything is always perfect, but we're also not there's a lot of negativity in fandoms now. And I don't know. I think because it drives engagement, outrage is clicks. But that's not us. I mean, we'll tell you if we don't like a thing. Sometimes those are the most fun episodes, actually. But we always find something that we like, and we always acknowledge we do these shows because we enjoy the thing that we're talking about in general, even if once in a while, something isn't as good as we'd like.
Well, I love looking for hidden patterns and hidden little examples of things that you can glean out of why did they do it this way, and that to me is really exciting. I don't know. I have to confess, I don't listen to Lisa's Stargate because I've never seen the show. But I always, when I do something like Indiana Jones, I'm always trying to look into, well, what's an Easter egg that might be hidden there? Or what's the connection that maybe somebody didn't understand or catch the first time? And I have to say, I love all of the different podcast hosts, because we really only see each other when we're recording, but we have a way to communicate behind the scenes. And everybody's just been fantastic to work with. I mean, and that's it's just another way of connecting with people. So whether you're listening to them or whether you're interacting with them, you feel connected.
Yeah. The great thing and the funny thing is, so I've met you all. I've met some of the other folks that we've done, but there's so many people that I podcast with that I've never been in the same room with. I've never been in the same state as Jimmy Akin. It's like, but we've worked together for so long.
Oh, how fun!
That surprises me.
Our upcoming pilgrimage to Rome this summer will be our first time actually being in each other's presence, and I'm sure that will be that moment where I'm like, "Hey, Jimmy," because he's much taller than I am. So it's always that people are always taller than I expect, and I suspect that's because I'm so short. But but it is such a great community, very supportive. Even we have a Slack that we a little a message board that we use to communicate and organize, and we have such great connections. Because when people ask for prayers, it's not all business. We joke around or whatever, but it is such a great community of like-minded folks. It really feels like the body of Christ. It really does. That sense of we're here together, to do something that's an important mission, but also because we genuinely like each other and we have fun together. And I think that comes through in the shows. I look at the banter on Secrets of Stargate, and I listen as much because it's just fun to listen to you guys laugh and talk as it is to talk about Stargate, which is another one of my favorite genre shows in the genre. Yeah, I think that is important, that it comes across. There are lots of podcasts put out by the production companies behind these shows. Like there's an official Star Wars podcast, official Star Trek, and those are fine, but they're managed, they're curated, they're written by publicists, and sometimes it kind of comes across. Our shows, I think, are genuine. I think they come across as this is genuinely what we think, and it's genuinely the fun we have. And I always want it to feel like this is like if we were sitting around a table in the pub, on campus, like back to college days, or whatever, hanging out at the kitchen table, talking about, this episode of this show, wasn't this great? Yeah, what did you love about it? And that sort of thing. I always wanted to have that feel of genuine interest, on the part of the people who's involved. So, and I think that does come across.
I think so too. It's funny when, so the Secrets of Stargate for me, when SQPN announced they were going to do it, it's funny, Shelly sent me a message, and my husband and I started watching Stargate when it first came out, and it was our show for years. My kids have grown up on it. They've seen the episodes multiple times. We have lots of cultural references that we make according to Stargate in our family. And I always felt very alone in that. Like I never knew anybody else who loved that show. So when Shelly sent me a message and she's like, SQPN is going to do Stargate. And she's like, you have to do it. And I'm like, there's enough people that like Stargate, especially 20 years later, because the show hasn't it aired first in 99, I think. So it was so funny. And when I started doing the podcast, we do it once a week and we episode by episode, and when we started talking about it, we have fun. And it's so, it's like when you watch a show in the old days, when you would watch a show and then you get together with your friends and you talk about it. And I'm always so excited when we get feedback, and we get feedback almost every week. Good feedback, that there's other people who care about this show that I was obsessed with for so long. And I think the camaraderie between the four of us shows, and that we just did our 200th episode. I don't know, it's been like a month or so since it came out. And I think that's what keeps me doing it week to week is just, we have fun and we enjoy each other and we enjoy the show and we enjoy that there are people listening and that care enough that are like, I wouldn't say weird and crazy enough to love this old sci-fi show as much as we do. And it's just this bond we all have. And it's, I don't know, it's really, and we have fun.
It's one of the great parts of
fun.
We have fun.
of genre podcasting where we talk about like shows and things is, again, like you said, back in the day, you didn't know, like, especially pre-internet days, you know, you didn't know if anybody else, like maybe some of your friends you hung out with, you worked with, or you went to school with, maybe liked the show, but you didn't really know if other people. Star Trek was the first one that really developed this following, this general public following, and you had Star Trek conventions, which I've been to. One of these days, I can tell you some of my Star Trek convention stories from back in the day, where I embarrassed myself. Well, I'll just tell you quickly. I met Marina Sirtis,
Star Trek conventions.
Yes, that's an episode. Marina Sirtis, who was Deanna Troi on TNG, and I was 18 or something like that, and went to a convention. And I don't know where it came from, but I was like, when I met him, like, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever met. And of course, she was gracious and nice to this weird, nerdy kid. And she commented on my Spuds McKenzie shirt that I haven't thought of that in years. Denise Crosby had the same dog or something like that. I know, Spuds McKenzie, right? Talk about dating myself. Yeah. But the same age. But the now with podcasts, you have this opportunity to connect with people, in social media and that sort of stuff. Connect with people who love these little things, these sometimes obscure things, like a sci-fi TV show that went off the air. Was it 18, almost 20 years ago now? Yeah. I mean, something like that. But people still love, and I think that is great. I love that, being able to do that, and I would love to do more of that, more shows. Bring back. I've talked to people about some of the old sci-fi channel shows like Warehouse 13 and Eureka, which were not. Yeah, they weren't high art, but they were fun. And I don't know if I don't know if there's a huge audience for any of those, but maybe there's enough for, maybe we could do a Secrets of Sci-Fi of the old Sci-Fi channel or something. We could figure out what they call it and just cover all of the shows, that were on there, like Sliders and,
Oh, I haven't thought of that in years.
Yeah. They're actually doing a reboot of that, which is interesting. They're rebooting everything, everything gets
no new ideas.
There's no original ideas. Yeah, right. But you're bring back Stargate.
A lot of it is we keep hoping, but not really, because maybe they'll mess it up. So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of these shows were more clean, more family friendly. I mean, I'll say less edgy. Everything nowadays I feel like has to be edgy and gritty and dark
and grim. Yeah.
And
every evil character must have a backstory.
And
he's not really
sort of
evil.
Sympathetic. Yeah.
The hero forced him to be evil.
Yeah. There's the ambiguity, the gray. The gray it's grown in the storytelling. There's the less black and white storytelling. And I know the world is sort of shades of gray and that sort of thing. But the stories don't have to reflect reality absolutely. Yes. I just watched the season finale of the new Daredevil series on Disney Plus. That is like the darkest Marvel show yet. I enjoy Daredevil, and then there are a lot of Catholic themes in the Daredevil. That character actually has a Catholic background within the character's backstory, but it's very dark, very violent, and I feel like you look back at some of these shows, and it's not just folks with nostalgia. There are young people who enjoy these shows just as much. That there's a young audience for these things, because I think they feel like some of this new stuff is a little heavy and we need something. Sometimes we just need something a little lighter. Yeah. I think post 9/11, there was a lot of push to give some lighter entertainment. That's just my own theory. I think there was a lot of this stuff that came out in the early 2000s, or that was being made in the early 2000s, that had a lighter feel to it. It wasn't that there was no heavy themes or important themes, but it just wasn't as dark. I think America at the time needed something a little lighter fare. I think we could use some now.
Do too. I've actually been reading some articles about the younger generations and how they've grown up in this dystopian as reality, kind of everything is dark and gritty, and there's no hope, there's no future because it's all oppressive. And they were saying how they believe that they need different types of shows, books, shows, and movies to help them see the hope and the good in the world amidst all of the bad, not denying that there's bad things happening, but to help them see that hope and joy. And it's funny, I'd never really thought about that before until I read this article. And then you started looking around, you started investigating. And especially if someone doesn't have faith and they don't know,
yes,
they don't know about the hope and the joy and the light and the positivity, then yeah, it's a whole different world for them. So I kind of feel like that's where SQPN brings that into our culture, because I have noticed there are younger people now going back and watching all of these shows. I don't have to turn any further than my own kids. They're young adults, and I watch, see what they're watching in the movies and the old TV shows, and I'm like, you've heard of that? Much less you're watching that?
Right. You look at shows that have been popular, like what made, say, The Mandalorian stand out when it came out. A big part of it was Grogu, like this cute, gorgeous little. You just want to squeeze him. Like there was something about that character, the innocence and the you want to protect him, and and you had this father figure who was protecting him and taking care of him. Or Ted Lasso. What made Ted Lasso the huge cultural phenomenon it was? Well, it came out in 2020 at a time when we were all feeling pretty low. And you had this guy who was relentlessly positive, this guy who came in the midst of all these cynical sports people and just was this light for them. And I think kind of that's why maybe in their second season it didn't do as great, because Ted went through his own dark night of the soul in a way. But I think there is a thirst for this. There's plenty of shows that are still popular that are dark and edgy and that sort of stuff.
Right.
And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have those. Like again, I enjoyed the new Daredevil season, but we need this other part too. It can't be a whole diet of that sort of thing.
I'll give a plug. We did Secrets of Ted Lasso. You and I did, Dom.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes. And a fourth season is in production, apparently. So
I'm so
curious
excited
how they're going to manage that. But yes.
Girls team.
Confess,
they're going to coach a girls team.
Yes, that was how they ended it. I have to confess, my favorite character, though, is Roy Kent.
Oh, yeah.
Because underneath all that gruff, hard exterior, there's a heart of gold in there. I know it.
There is.
And so, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So go listen to that one if you're a Ted Lasso fan.
Yes.
Y'all are making me wish I had Apple TV. So
yeah,
I can't watch shows that aren't on.
There are so many great shows on Apple TV Plus. I got to say that they're hitting it out of the ballpark. Yeah.
So
yeah.
So Dom, tell us a little bit about what your vision is for SQPN going forward.
So one of the trends I try to keep aware of where people are and what people are doing in the area we're in. One of the big trends is more toward video. A lot of podcasts are. It's so easy now to do a video component to your podcast. Like we'll never stop doing audio versions, but we are tending to look more toward doing more video, and then video shorts like YouTube Shorts and TikTok. I'll be honest, I haven't installed TikTok on my phone. I don't want the Chinese Communist Party to have access to my phone. But we do post our clips from our shows on TikTok for those who partake. So we're going to be pushing more to that. Not that we'd be doing TikTok videos instead of podcasts, but trying to grow our audience by reaching people in these places. So there's that. We're always looking to add more shows. Like I would love to do a Catholic history podcast. For several years, we had American Catholic History with Tom and Noel Crow, which is a show I love. I think they hit it out of the ballpark. It was a great show, and they're continuing on to do their show independently, which was an amicable split. It was for various reasons they needed to take their show independent. Which is great. But I want to do a Catholic history podcast, maybe spanning the entirety of the history of the church. But I need someone to do it. I need a Catholic history expert. So that sort of thing. There are upcoming shows maybe that we could do stuff on. Like I would do more of these sorts of show specific things if we had well, if we had the resources, and people willing to do it. And those are the two big things. Is, again, like I said, you're all volunteers on our shows, so it's your time that you're donating. And so we just need more people who are interested in doing this, who love the thing they want to talk about. And so I always encourage people, if you've got an idea, you bring it forward and we'll talk about it. We have, we want to ensure that we do something of quality. If we're going to put resources behind it and time and effort and money, we want to make sure we do it well. And so I always encourage people to bring your ideas. And, it doesn't have to be limited to talking about TV shows and movies. Again, we have shows about art and, faith generally and things like that. So we're interested in hearing all kinds of ideas, but really, I think my vision is to just grow the audiences that we have. We're like Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World. Jimmy's YouTube channel is almost at 100,000, which is a milestone on YouTube. When you get to 100,000, they give you a big, silver play button that you can hang on your wall. And it's sort of, but beyond the button, we believe that everything's very secret about the algorithm. But the algorithm, I think, once you reach a certain level, starts pushing your show out to more people as a recommendation. So, we're looking to grow in the audience itself and to reach more people with what we feel like is some great programming, some great stuff that really brings the faith in a new way to new audiences, and kind of opens the door. And it's a sort of a soft evangelization in the sense of, have you ever considered these ideas? And there's an old evangelization technique called the funnel, where you have evangelization effort, programs or whatever that are very low threshold. They're not very Catholic or very Christian. And then as you bring people in, you can bring them down the funnel to the things that are the most Catholic thing of all. And so we kind of have that with, like, PlayStation Portable is our most Catholic thing, but we have, shows at each of the levels to kind of shepherd people in and introduce them to Christ in this gentle way.
What kind of feedback have you heard from people that, the effect that some of these shows or SQPN has had on their lives or on their faith?
We've had dramatic feedback, like people saying I was an atheist or agnostic, or I was born Catholic and left, or whatever, who said, I listened to your shows, and as I listened, I eventually became convinced of the to go to check it out, or to become Catholic, and people who have entered the church because of in part listening to one of our podcasts. Podcasts do make a difference, and I think it's important to also acknowledge that we form a relationship, sort of a para relationship with people, the listeners. Like I don't know all of our listeners, but they kind of know me. And so there's a connection there. And I think it's important to recognize that relationship, that connection we can form with people, a large audience. And I think people feel like when you're authentic, when you're real with them, they feel more connected to you. And, when I talk about my faith or faith related things, I'm not just a salesman. I'm not just throwing a pitch out there. I'm talking about something that's important to me. And I'm not imposing it on people. I'm just, you've come to listen to the show, and this is part of who I am. And I think that makes a difference with people, that authenticity.
I agree wholeheartedly.
So, well, Dom, I think we are to the point in our show where we move into a segment where we ask a question of you. Lisa and I, and I've struggled with this one because Lisa and I are sisters, and we always ask our female guests if they have a sister story to share with us that won't get them in trouble. I'm going to give you the option. I know you have both brothers and sisters, so I will let you choose whether you want to do a brother story or a sister story from your perspective that won't get you in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not worried. So I'll get in trouble. It's fine.
Jonathan Rumi straight up told me, nope, don't have any that won't get me in trouble. Sorry.
My sister knows. I tell this story all the time. So I have a younger sister, Evelyn, and we call her Evie. She's always been a bit naive, credulous, easy to trick, which is fun when you're the older brother. And so many, many years ago, probably 30, 40 years ago at this point, my dad, who was a Navy veteran, took me and Evie and my older brother John to New London, Connecticut, which is where there's a U.S. Navy base that he had been stationed at. And there's a submarine museum there, U.S. Navy submarine museum. And he took us there. And as you drive up to the museum entrance, outside they have a mock-up of the nose cone of a Trident missile, from a nuclear missile, Trident nuclear missile, sitting on the lawn, so it looks like the opening, and then there's the nose cone there. And my brother John says, Evie, that's a real nuclear missile. She's like, no way. Like, yes. And then he walks up and he starts banging on it. And she's like, stop, it's gonna blow up. Like, no, Evie, they don't leave nuclear missiles laying around in the lawn of the submarine museum. But look, it's a bill of sale. It was like a piece of some sort of packing slip. And she's like, really? Yes, it's $4 billion. See? So yeah, that's my Evie. I have other Evie stories that I could tell that are a little off color, but so I won't go into those. Yeah, I can maybe tell you
I have to ask, how old was she at that experience?
Oh, we were teenagers. So,
teenagers.
Yeah. She was not little. She was a teenager. She's old enough to know better. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm 3 years older than she is. So we were close in age, and we were often cats and dogs. We were friends now, but back in the day, there was lots of, I'm telling mom.
Yeah.
Sort of that sort of relationship.
I can't imagine. Yeah. Anybody with siblings has that one. Probably.
We had a working mom, and summertime, it was often, I'm calling mom. Don't call mom at work.
That's true.
Yes.
That's very true. You don't want to get in
There's nothing I can do about it from work.
Exactly.
Okay. And then our second question we ask all our guests is, what saint is kind of walking with you right now in this season of your life?
So I have long had a devotion to Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati, who is going to be Saint Pier Giorgio Frassati this summer. I'm just going to miss the canonization by 2 weeks when I go to Italy, which we planned the trip before the canonization was announced. So that's fine. I'm just glad he's being canonized. And so back, almost 30 years ago now that I think about it, when I was a student at Steubenville, we had a presentation on campus by the Minister General of the Third Order Regular the Franciscans, whose miraculous healing was the cause for his beatification. And so he came to this presentation, and they had these beautiful poster boards that they hung up, these pictures of this young man from Italy, this young Italian man. If you don't know, Pier Giorgio was a Italian young man, lived in he died in 1923, I think it was, and in Turin, Italy, and was very vibrant. He was an outdoorsman, loved climbing mountains, having fun with his friends. One of my favorite pictures is of him arm in arm with his friends, a cigar in one hand and a glass of wine in the other. And, he just loved life, but he also loved Christ, and Christ in the poor especially, and was known for going out into serving the poor. When he died young. He contracted tuberculosis, I think it was. Now my memory's shot, but I think it was tuberculosis. Died during Holy Week. Basically wouldn't tell anyone that he was sick because his grandmother was also dying, and he didn't want to take attention away from her, and died on Holy Saturday of that year. And at his funeral, they expected, his parents were wealthy and powerful. They expected the elites of the city to show up, and hundreds of thousands of people lined the streets. The poor who loved this young man who didn't know he was a rich kid. So Pier Giorgio is just very close to my heart. I always have had this devotion to him. I set up the first website dedicated to Pier Giorgio back in 1996.
Wow.
And in fact, his niece, Wanda Goranska, contacted me not long after, and, thanked me for setting it up. And we had a correspondence for a few years, and I have a treasured relic of Pier Giorgio that she sent me as a sort of thanks. So it's really kind of cool. So yeah, I feel really close to Pier Giorgio.
Wow.
Especially this time. Yeah.
With all of that, I can imagine. So and from the beginning, I love that you've been attentive to him from the very beginning. How wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you're
Yeah.
not going to be able to hop back on. I
It's
mean, you're
okay.
right there on the East
know.
Coast. I mean, just
hop
right
back
there.
on a
Just tell
plane,
your wife,
back
we're
over
just
there.
going
Yeah.
to go over there, experience it, and then hop on a plane right back.
Yeah, there you go. The nice thing is we're actually going to Assisi, and Blessed Carlo Acutis will have been canonized by that time. So we'll get to pray at his tomb in Assisi. So that's blessed,
nice.
Blessed soon to be Saint Carlo is really another, newer saint that I really love his example, especially for young men right now. So I think between those two young men, I think we have two great young modern saints who can really model for especially men. I mean, women too. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of young men need a Christian role model like these two young saints. So it's fantastic.
I think they're coming out at this time, being canonized, both of them, for that purpose, because the world needs good Catholic boys to become good Catholic men and be strong in their faith in the face of everything that's going on in the world.
Yes, definitely.
The dough is rising.
Some bread.
Oh, and I just had yeast and leaven, and right.
Yes.
That's the next segment.
Proofing.
Now we're going to ask you to cook something.
Hey, could be
Cooking
an
show.
idea. Catholic cooking show, especially going video.
Yep.
Well, that's all I have for you today, Dom. Lisa, is there anything else?
Yes, I want to. Well, one, thank you, Dom, for coming on.
You're welcome.
And two, tell people where to find you and the shows and the network and everything.
Yes. That's very important. So you can find us at SQPN.com. It's 4 letters, SQPN.com. All our shows are there. You can find all our shows on all the podcast networks in the usual places. I apologize. I'm getting over cold, so I'm trying to deal with that. But all the usual podcast places, Spotify, and our YouTube channel is youtube.com/StarQuest Media.
Awesome. And y'all even have a Discord channel.
We do. SQPN.com/Discord. Come join what is almost always a positive community. Always a positive community. We make sure it's a positive community. Not always a positive. Yes.
Even when we're hating on a show. No.
Yes. No. I don't want to hedge my bets. It is one of the most positive, friendly places where you can gather in a social media type atmosphere. So come join us for that.
That is awesome. And you might see Shelly and I there from time to time. All right. Thank you, Dom, for being here. This was a really great. Shelly and I have been talking about having you on for so long. And because SQPN and the old CNMCs, like all of that was just such a really formational time in our, I'll say adult lives, as we kind of grew into all of this, and the experience with SQPN really encouraged us to start our own podcast. We appreciate it. And for our listeners, we really hope that you'll go check out SQPN. And I'm really positive you will find a show there that you will want to listen to. They have so many things to offer. Go check it out. Go get involved and report back. Let us know which one. And it better be Secrets of Stargate. I'm just saying. That better be your favorite. Even if you've never seen Stargate. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe they'll start watching Stargate.
Start watching it. It's on, where is it on? Amazon Prime right now. But we thank you for being here, and we hope that you will tell a friend and make sure you're subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it, Dom.
You're welcome.